Hello my loves and welcome to a special edition of What Do You Know? In this episode, we will discuss not one but three heroes, Erze, Glenwys, and Laias. And the reason for that is that recently, new raiders and returning raiders received these three heroes along with their unique weapons. That's why I wanted to make a guide that new users could utilize in order to make the most of this gift from King's Raid. Seasoned veterans will already be familiar with the information in this video, and if that's the case for you, be sure to stick around until the end of the episode for a chance to receive a prize. And also, don't forget to leave your own helpful tips in the comment section below. I think both our new raiders and I will really appreciate it. Now, let's get started. Now, before we take a closer look at each of these three heroes, I wanted to explain the concept of team building in King's Raid. When you begin King's Raid, you will build a team of 4 heroes. Most raiders will have one damage dealer, also known as a DPS. They will also use a hero as a tank that will bear the brunt of a lot of incoming damage for the team. They also tend to have a hero on the team that has a lot of crowd control abilities such as stun or knockback. And they will also have a healer to ensure the survivability of their team. For example, I started King's Raid with Epis as my damage dealer, Naraxis as my tank, Visca as my hero with crowd control abilities, and Frey as my healer. Now, when building your team, it is important to consider that there are 2 attack types, magic and physical. You can find out what your hero's attack type is by visiting their profile and checking under the Hero Info tab. While there are some exceptions, as a general rule, coordinating the attack types between the heroes on your team will create a synergizing effect, thereby enhancing your team's effectiveness in battle. And the 3 heroes, Erze, Glenwys, and Laias, all serve a different purpose on a team. Let's take a more in-depth look at these heroes, and let's begin with Erze. Erze is the second daughter of the Shadowhilt family, a family of vampire hunters. She has an older sister named Saria, and everything was fine and dandy until one day she was bitten by a vampire. While Saria was away, Erze succumbed to her bloodlust and killed all of her comrades. Erze is an AoE DPS, and that's a lot of letters that don't really mean anything to a lot of people who aren't into gaming. AoE stands for Area of Effect. This means that she has abilities that can target multiple enemies on the battlefield at once. She is from the Assassin class and also has a physical attack type, and this means she will perform better when the other members of her team also have a physical attack type because of the synergizing effect. Erze's first skill is called Sweet Blood. You'll notice that this skill deals damage to all of the enemies on the battlefield. That's the AoE part, right? But it also steals HP from those enemies. Furthermore, each hit reduces the skill's cooldown. Erze's second skill is called Soaking Blood. Now, this skill has a high cooldown of 35 seconds. This skill can prevent her from getting one-shotted by the enemy, as upon activation it will grant her immunity to all CC and damage for 5 seconds. As such, it is best to activate this skill when she is near death. Now, due to her first and second skill, Erze will require manualing. For example, if you want to spam her first skill due to its low cooldown, unfortunately the auto feature cannot do that for you. So you will have to press the button manually yourself. Furthermore, you want to ensure that her S2 is available upon a fatal hit, so you don't want that going off and activating on the auto feature when it's not necessary. If it is in cooldown when she receives a fatal blow, it will not activate. Her third skill is called Blood Liberation. This skill deals wide-range damage to all enemies, and when this skill hits an enemy, it will trigger a second hit on a random enemy. Now, all heroes in King's Raid have a 4th skill, also known as their passive. As a passive, you cannot activate this skill with a click of a button. Instead, when conditions are met, it will activate automatically. Erze's passive is called Life Drinker. When she kills an enemy, her max HP and attack will increase. Furthermore, note that as long as her second skill is not in cooldown, her second skill will activate upon a fatal hit. Erze, like all heroes in King's Raid, has what's known as a unique weapon. This is a weapon that can be equipped to slot 1 and can only be used by that hero. Erze's unique weapon, Essence of Greed Parion, relies on stacks. Each skill hit increases her attack and attack speed by 0.5% for 15 seconds, and this effect stacks up to 80 times, given that her unique weapon is at 0 stars. Keep in mind that you can always awaken your unique weapon in order to increase the strength of its unique option. Now, heroes in King's Raid tend to perform better in some content than others. Erze is no different. Although she can be used in PvE and PvP, she is a popular choice, especially in Guild Conquest, specifically Valkazar. Guild Conquest is endgame content available to you when you join a guild. Valkazar can throw lava at you, he summons these caskets that you have to defeat, so it's really important to have an AoE, area of effect DPS, to challenge him. But how do you build her? What gear do you use? If you visit the hero's profile and click on gear, you'll notice a tip button in the upper right hand corner. If you click on this button, you can see what options are recommended for this hero in a player versus environment battle, also known as PvE. You can see it's also called normal here as well. You can see that the options recommended for Erze in PvE content are attack, crit damage, and crit. You can also see what options are recommended for player versus player battles, or PvP. Well, you guys, what do you think of Erze? Now let's take a look at our next hero, Glenwys. Glenwys is known as the Shield of Empire and is the vice captain in the Empire Capital Guard Knights. In becoming so, she became the first commoner to rise to such a high post. She even won 3 tournaments and is regarded as modest and responsible, in addition to being an excellent warrior. Glenwys is from the Knight class and has a physical attack type. Again, this means that she will perform better on teams that also have physical attack types. Glenwys has great utility in her kit. She might not be as tanky as some of her cohorts, but she could be a good secondary tank to act as a buffer between the backline and the enemy. For example, her first skill, that is it, increases the physical damage that enemies take by 4% for 10 seconds. This can stack up to 7 times, which will result in a 28% damage increase at max stacks. Note that this will not increase the magic damage that enemies receive. So this is an example of why it's not ideal to pair Glenwys with a team that has a magic attack type. However, this skill will work great with heroes like Erze who have a physical attack type. Glenwys' second skill is called I Will Not Stay My Hand. It deals damage over 10 attacks to nearby enemies and stuns them for 1 second. The 10th attack stuns for 3 seconds. This skill can reduce an enemy's CC bar, and this might be especially useful when farming legendary gear in Dragon Raids. Here, my team is facing off against the Black Dragon Armarta. Do you see the second yellow bar underneath his red health bar? Using CC skills can reduce this bar. Watch as my hero's CC skills reduce it to 0. For a brief moment, Armarta is unable to counter-attack. Her third skill is called Time for Counter-Attack. This skill has several effects. It knocks enemies down for 3 seconds, it dispels negative effects from all allies, and it gives an attack and defense boost for 20 seconds for all allies, and this might be especially useful in boss battles. Here you can see Glenwys facing off against enemies in Chapter 7. When activated, her second skill stuns nearby enemies, the tigers in the front. You can see them stunned on the ground, unable to move. I actually got frozen by the enemies in the back and must wait before I can use a normal attack or skill. The first time this freeze dissipates on its own, but I get frozen again by the enemy. I have enough mana this time to use Glenwys' third skill, which inflicts knockdown on the tigers. But look, it also dispelled this negative controlling effect. Her first skill deals damage to the enemies here too. And just like Erze, Glenwys also has a fourth skill, her passive. Her passive increases the attack of all allies and also increases the damage that non-hero enemies take. She also reduces the damage that her allies receive. Note that this skill does not specify whether it increases the physical damage or the magic damage. So while Glenwys is at her best on a team with a physical attack type, thanks in part to her first skill, this passive ability will actually help teams that have a magic attack type as well. New users and returning raiders also received her unique weapon, the counterattack Maxithia. Having her unique weapon will allow her to increase the attack and crit damage of her allies. This essentially means that your team is going to do more damage to the enemy. In general, Glenwys will benefit from tanky stats like defense, max HP, and block. She does have a high mana cost for most of her skills, 2, 3, and 4 mana orbs, so this might not make her particularly useful in PvP unless you use a mana battery like Laias. Laias is a water dragon that assumes a human form. She was worshipped in the past by desert tribes, and they even built a shrine in her honor. She used her command of water to fertilize the land and help her people. She has a little sister named Lilia and is beloved by the god King Cain. She was in a deep slumber until recently, and when she awoke, she set off to help Cassell and friends at Dragia Volcano. Laias is from the priest class and has a magic attack type, but you shouldn't be afraid to use Laias on a team with a physical attack type. If we take a look at her kit, we'll be able to see why Laias works well on both magic attack type teams and physical attack type teams. Her main function is as a healer, but she also offers a single target shield and also acts as a mana battery. Her first skill is called Healing Droplets. This skill heals the HP of all allies and reduces magic damage by 15% for 5 seconds. Her second skill is Bubble Shield. It casts a shield that blocks some incoming damage on the ally with the lowest HP for 15 seconds. This shield also offers her ally an attack boost and CC immunity. It will also heal the HP of that ally every second. Please note that this is a single target shield. The rest of your team will not benefit from this ability. Her third skill is called Festival of the Flow. This skill knocks down enemies. Furthermore, all allies except Laias will recover 2 orbs of mana. It will also create a whirlpool that deals damage to random enemies and knocks them down for 2 seconds. And just like the other heroes, she has a fourth skill, her passive known as Blessings of the Water Dragon. Her passive will increase the M defense and M crit resistance of all allies. Now, all heroes, regardless of attack type, benefit from attack boosts, heals, shields, CC immunity, M defense boosts, and M crit resistance boosts too, right? That's why Laias is so beneficial for both physical and magic attack type teams. Laias' unique weapon, Flowing Circle El Tor, increases the heal rate of all allies by 8% and their M defense by 5% of Laias' attack. Every 5 seconds, it will heal the ally with the lowest HP by 100% of her own attack. That's why a lot of raiders try to build her with as many attack lines as possible. She will be more effective at healing, and the M defense boost will also be greater. Of course, adding a few block or max HP lines might be useful to ensure her survivability. Just make sure she does not have a higher attack than your DPS, because then she would steal the buffs from your team, and we don't want that. She definitely does not have a Dispel, which would be very useful, especially in content like PvP and some PvE, but overall she is a very, very nice addition to your team. In fact, she is pretty darn good at general PvE, but she can also be used in PvP as a mana battery. For example, I like to use Laias' third skill to grant my heroes 2 orbs of mana in the arena, thereby charging Aisha's second skill and allowing her to burst down the enemy in the arena. While I wasn't able to address it in this video, heroes also have unique treasures and transcendence perks, which are important to consider when building your heroes. That's why I recommend checking out the following videos. The first one is a guide to Glenwys by our creator Gwyn. The second is a guide to Laias by our creator Valella. They are both very knowledgeable and have great detailed guides on these heroes, so be sure to check them out. And if you're interested in a beginner's guide for King's Raid, you should visit our official YouTube channel and check out my series called Masterclass. In this series, I introduced you to Orville, talked about gear, team building. I think I covered most of the basics in that series, so hopefully that can answer a lot of your questions. The King's Raid community is also full of knowledgeable and helpful raiders. So definitely check out the unofficial Reddit, the International King's Raid Facebook group, the Discord, and plug as well. Now before I go, I wanted to announce that we're having a mini giveaway. This one is for our seasoned veterans. All you have to do is fill out the form, which you can find in the description below, and offer your fellow raters 3 tips on either Glenwys, Erze, or Laias. 3 raters who provide 3 excellent tips on one of these heroes will receive 300 rubies. Alright raters, well that's it for this special edition of What Do You Know? Take care and I'll see you next time. Mwah! Bye!